Hi everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and if you're in the UK, I hope you're not melting in the heat because it is hot. I'm starting out, well, I'm doing a craft video today, and I'm starting out with doing some journaling in my commonplace book. And here I'm just doing a little flip through so you can see what sort of things are in there. But I've basically been putting bits and bobs that interest me, like sun prints and some Animal Crossing things, some research on frogs, and just doing some doodles and anything that's like research that fascinates me. I've just been writing it down in there, and I'm planning today to do some research on sea slugs because I've recently got really fascinated with them. So I'm going to time lapse that for you, and it's really funny. I have the world's tiniest pencil, so don't laugh. I need to get a proper one if I'm going to take this journaling thing seriously. But yeah, I've basically been trying to absorb myself into doing a bit of research and journaling and finding things which spark joy, because I'm off work with anxiety and it's been a terrible time, and I'm trying to find things which distract me and make me happy. So that's what I'm doing. This is what I've done so far. My drawing abilities are not very good, but it doesn't matter because it's about the enjoyment and the enrichment of the activity. Sound like a teacher. What I'm going to do is write some facts about each sea slug there, and then I'll just have a little spread on my favourite ones, because I think this one is my favourite. I love this one. I think it's very cute, and I included this one because I think my partner would find this one the cutest. But yeah, I'll be doing that next, and I'll show you when it's done. Okay, who would like to know some fun facts about sea slugs? I've just been doing a bit of research and writing all my little notes down, and I'll put some photographs on screen of each one so that you can actually recognise them. Because obviously from my drawings they don't look very realistic. But this one is probably my favourite one. It's nicknamed the leaf slug or the sea sheep slug, and a few sea slugs perform photosynthesis, and this is one of them. And he's found in waters near Japan, and they're very tiny. Some sea slugs can be like the size of a grain of rice, and this particular one grows between 5 to 10 millimeters in length. And then this one was kind of cool. This one looks like a leaf, and literally if you see the photograph, which you will because I'll put it on screen, but they really look like a leaf. It's amazing, isn't it, what nature can do. But they're found off of the east coast of America in salt marshes and like shallow creeks and shallow water, and they produce both sperm and eggs, but they don't self-fertilize. And I read something like when they lay eggs it's like in a long string kind of thing. And these ones are nicknamed sea bunnies, and they went really popular in Japan. I think there's like a bit of a viral trend that these are like real life Pokemon kind of things. But I was reading this one, the sea bunnies like eating toxic sea sponges, and they sort of preserve the toxins from the sea sponges and use it as a defense mechanism, but they also eat algae and seagrass as well. And then this one, I'm not even going to attempt to say this, I don't know, but it's cute. It's a really cute looking sea slug. They're found in Indonesia and the Philippines sort of area. And they look quite similar to 3 or 4 other sea slugs. Just the colour variations are slightly different. Oh, nudging the camera. And they range in a different, like they have a different range of colours. They can go from like blue to kind of white looking, but they'll always have a stripe on them apparently. And I say all this like I'm an expert, but I'm not an expert. I've just been researching. And this one actually is really interesting. I don't, from the picture you can't really tell, but obviously you'll see the photograph. And I was just thinking, there are so many fascinating creatures, and people think we're like the most amazing things on the planet, but if you see a creature like that, it's just incredible that something like that can even exist. So these ones are nicknamed the lettuce sea slug, and they're found in the Western Atlantic and the Caribbean faunal zone, and they also have the same photosynthesis ability as well. And I was reading that basically when they eat like algae or whatever they're eating, they have a chloroplast retention ability, and it makes it possible for them to last a really long time without food. So it's like they're living off of sunlight alone, like they're surviving off of sunlight because of food scarcity or whatever. But it's so fascinating that creatures like this exist, and we will probably never see them unless you're like one of the lucky few that studies them or happens to go deep sea diving or whatever, you know. Well, not deep sea because they're shallow waters, a lot of them I was reading, but yeah, I just don't like, we can read about them and look at pictures, and I think it's one of those things, if you saw it, it'd be like, wow. But obviously they're so tiny because some of them can be the size of a grain of rice. But it's just so fascinating what the world can do, like nature, you know, it's amazing. Sticking to the underwater theme, I don't know why I'm so obsessed with underwater things recently, or water related things like frogs and jellyfish and sea slugs and things. But yeah, anyway, what I was going to say is I did a little painting and I wasn't very happy with how it came out. It's basically like a paint by numbers, but without the numbers, if you see what I mean. Like it has all the silhouette and the shapes and you just paint it, but obviously you can do it whatever colour you want. But I wasn't very happy with how it came out, and I think it's because of the murky water. Because I did two others previously, like earlier in the week, a seahorse and a coral reef, and I really liked the colours on them. But I think I just didn't like the background colour of the jellyfish. But never mind, it was still fun to do, and you don't have to love everything that you make. Something else which I've been enjoying recently is doing these little sticker scenes, and I think you can find them online if you look up PET stickers. I'll write it on screen so you can see what they're called. But basically you get like a piece of cardboard and then all of these are stickers. This particular one is a cake shop and it comes with like, you'll see this is the finished thing, what it will look like, but you basically stick everything on, and it comes with all of these nice sticker sheets, and these are all tiny cakes which have to go on all of the shelves. But I find this really therapeutic and really relaxing for anxiety, and especially since I've been off work, because I just couldn't get out of my head. And I found that doing these helps because you're looking at the little pictures, like look how tiny they all are. I'll just show you some of them, like all of these little cakes and things. You look at all the small details, so you're not looking at your head, you're looking at something else, but also it's organising everything and lining everything up, and I quite like that. It's quite therapeutic to like put things in order, and you know, it's a bit of a sense of relief for me. But I have done a couple already. I just stuck them in I don't know, this is a brand new notebook, and then I think we put a dinner plate on top of it, so now it's got a big ring on it, which is fine. But I did a couple already and I just stuck them in here because I didn't know where to keep them. But this one is like a little greenhouse, and it's got a little character there, and then there's loads of plants and things. And then my favourite one that I've done is this little bread bakery. I'll try and get that in camera so you can see it, but it's basically a loaf of bread, and when you open it up it is a bakery with a little cafe at the top, and there's just loads of rows of like pretzels and loaves of bread and things. But I find it quite therapeutic to line things up and organise things, and I think it helps to decompress. Like, I'm not really such a fan of colouring and things like that. I kind of like more structure, and to put things like, here is a shelf, put things in order on the shelf kind of thing, which whatever works, you know, like with anxiety or any sort of trauma or whatever issue, whatever helps you decompress. If it helps you, it helps you, whether that's dancing, singing, art, writing, like swimming, any sort of art like painting or whatever. If something gets you out of your head and it's an outlet and it makes you feel better, then why not do it? But I thought what I would do is I would finish doing my stickers, because I did half of it last night. But I was going to share with you a short story. I wrote a creative writing story this morning, and I think what I'll do is film doing this. and then I will dub the story over the top.
Millicent Partridge Beauchamp was the definition of posh. She had grown up in a large manor house and was the sole heir to a rather large fortune. Now a widow, she lived alone with her 12-year-old daughter and a cluster of cleaners, maids and housekeepers. She was lonely but never alone. Millicent, who was called Millie for short, kept a stiff upper lip as she had never been taught to mingle with the staff. She was always kind but never connected, and she presumed everyone thought she might be a bit of a snob. She tried to be a good employer, but she struggled to make conversation and only seemed to talk business, even with her daughter. One morning, Millie was walking around the upper floor of her very large home when she suddenly smelled a very peculiar aroma. It almost made her gag. As she walked along the corridor, she noticed a wet puddle in the corner of her daughter's bedroom door. She bent down and, to her disgust, realised it was a puddle of wee. She stood up immediately and thought about cleaning it when she noticed another puddle outside of the library. "What on earth?" she exclaimed. Barging into her daughter's room, who was fast asleep in her bed, she was about to give her what for when she noticed a tiny puppy curled up next to her. She had forgotten her late husband had promised Larissa a dog on her 12th birthday, and since she lived mostly in her own head, she must have missed Miles the housekeeper bringing him home. She lingered by the library entrance and thought about how no one ever used the room. It was just gathering dust, and then it slipped into her mind how fond she was of Miles. It gave her a strange sensation she did not quite understand, as she liked all of her staff, but she didn't know what this was. She plopped herself down to the kitchen to try and find a cleaning rag, but had no idea where to start. Miles appeared in his usual jolly but slightly cautious manner and wished her a good morning. He noticed she seemed a bit flustered, and he asked what needed to be done for the day. "Well, there are puddles of wee on the upper floors," Millie said. She had not meant for him to clean them, but he was already heading towards the stairs. "Why can't I just ask him how he is?" she thought. She thought about his greying beard and his laugh, but decided to cut that idea short and got on with her day instead. A little while later, her daughter Larissa wandered downstairs with a puppy. Millie could now make out it was a King Charles Cavalier, and it already had quite the personality. Julia, Larissa's mentor/nanny, was also in tow and was holding a red dog leash. "Have you taken him out in the garden yet?" Millie tried to sound upbeat. She did not know Julia that well and suspected Julia thought she was a bit uppity. "No, the garden is too... how do you say? He is small, garden is big," Julia confidently responded. They all automatically looked out onto the tennis courts, the patio and the fields spreading out into the distance. The garden realistically was made up of multiple acres of land and had no boundary with a neighbouring farm. "I suppose we could build him a sort of fenced-in area. What do you think, Larissa?" Millie said. "What about here? Maybe we could extend from the back wall all the way down to the tennis courts with some sort of shelter, but keep all of the grass. That would be like a garden for him, and then he could safely be outside." Larissa nodded in agreement, and Millie went off to call the contractors. They came a day later, and of course Millie being Millie gave a full demonstration of the exact location and where the fencing would end. It would give the puppy more than enough space, she thought, and realised she had not even asked what his name was. She sighed. A group of the cleaning ladies were taking their lunch breaks by the patio, and she thought about joining them. She longed for ordinary and chit-chat and laughter. She just did not know how to be approachable or how to come across as enthusiastic and friendly. She hesitated but started meandering over anyway, but was shocked to hear them speaking about her. "What's your conspiracy theory on why she's so Mrs. Millie?" Jackie, the newest cleaning lady, giggled. Tamara, who had been there for much longer, said, "Look, she is how she is, and it's not our place to judge people." She looked up and smiled directly at Millie. She had known she was there, but her answer seemed truthful and genuine. The ladies quickly scattered back to work, which disappointed Millie as she had hoped to sit with them. However, Tamara stayed looking at her and smiled. Millie always felt there was an unexplored chemistry between them, and Tamara always seemed to be slightly flirtatious. Millie thought she was rather pretty, but did not know what to do with that, the same as the sensation she felt around Miles, although one felt more lustful than the other. Tamara stood very close to Millie, and she could tell the ladies had been eating a very strong garlic bread for lunch. "That puts that idea to bed then," she thought, and took a step backwards. "You wanted to kiss me, didn't you?" Tamara questioned her playfully. "Yes, but you stink of garlic," Millie blurted out. The two women awkwardly laughed. "Well, some other time, Miss Millie, maybe when you're not my boss." "Ah, yes, indeed. Sorry." Millie sheepishly walked off. She had made a fool of herself in looking for companionship. She hoped Tamara wouldn't gossip with the other ladies. A few days later, a group of workmen turned up to start work on Pippin's garden. The puppy seemed to be twice the size, twice as boisterous, and twice as yappy since Millie last took notice of him. She wondered if Larissa had taught him any tricks yet. She hoped Larissa would not grow up to be as awkward as her. The workmen were making good progress and were leaving for the day, but one of them lingered behind. She knew he was called Fierro, as she had heard the other men shouting his name all day to hand them tools or hold something up, and well, she would be blind not to have noticed him. He must have been maybe in his early 40s and maybe 10 years her junior. He was built like a god, she thought. God, that's such a cliche, she seconded that with. He seemed to have won the genetic lottery and fit the exact stereotype of tall, dark and handsome. "You want to get a drink with me?" he asked. "They bet a day's pay each that you would say no." Millie stood frozen. "I mean, it's not a bet or anything. I wanted to ask you, but they all think you would turn me down. And I mean, you don't have to say yes. I mean, look at you, you're gorgeous. I just thought I'd try my luck, as you only live once," he grinned. "Okay," Millie said, "but I'm not sure you will enjoy my company." His eyes lit up with excitement. "Great, I'll pick you up at 7 tonight. Millie did not know the protocol. Millie did not know what to wear. Alas, Millie did not know how to be or who to be. Fierro was outside waiting at 10 to 7, and she was turning in circles in the kitchen. "You look magnificent," Miles said, but he seemed a tad bit disappointed. Maybe she looked frumpy, she thought, and he just did not want to hurt her feelings. He knew she was Millie the awkward after all. Fierro gasped and spun her around. "Wowee! I am a lucky man." He took her into town, which Millie did not mind, as she had not been out like this for years. She was a bit frightened as it was getting dark, and she was not used to so many people loitering about. She noticed a row of steps populated by goths and rockers having a meet-up. She wondered what it would be like to mingle with them, but was too scared to smile. "Probably think I'm a snob," she said without realising she had spoken out loud. No, Fierro answered. I don't. You look great." He opened the door to a seedy-looking bar, and Miles's face flashed across her mind. She seemed to be thinking of him an awful lot lately. Fierro handed her a drink and asked if she wanted to dance. To her surprise, she found herself swooning in his arms for the rest of the night, looking into his eyes. She did not feel any spark with Fierro, but she enjoyed envisioning what it might be like to be with a man like him. He leaned in to kiss her, but as he moved closer, she panicked. "Miles! I must get home to Miles. My daughter, he's looking after her tonight." She ran out of the front of the bar and was hastily walking back past the goth and rocker steps towards the nearest taxi rank. "Wait, Millie, let me take you home." Fierro drove them back in silence and pulled into the entrance of the manor house. "I think he likes you, you know," Fierro said. I don't know what accent Fierro is, by the way. "I saw how he looked at you tonight. Don't close yourself in, Millie. You're great." She smiled at him and told him he was a very nice man, apologising for what had happened and how she had enjoyed his company, but did not see a potential match. "It's okay," Fierro said. "I was forcing it too. I think you're beautiful, but we don't really click, do we? You just seem to mostly look at me and my good looks. But Millie, I like you, I do. But I would have liked to have talked and known you more. I don't think I'm what you want, Millie." Miles opened the door, puppy in hand, and she felt her gut churn. Could it be a sort of longing, she questioned. "Talk to him," Fierro whispered. "He likes you, I can tell." Millie waved goodbye to Fierro and walked towards the front door. "Well, Millie, I don't like to ask, but do you want to have a late night drink in the kitchen?" she interrupted. "Well, yes, I do." Hours passed by, and they were still sitting there as the sun was coming up. It was strange she had found so much to say to Miles. He had worked for the household for as long as she could remember, and yet she had never been able to speak to him like this. She realised she had always wanted to, but she was too scared to let anyone in. Plus, she'd been married, and even though he had had umpteen affairs, it had never crossed her mind to behave like an animal. She had known it would be a loveless marriage, as it was a business deal with her father that he had pushed them into, but she had never realised it would make her so lonely until now. "Wait, Miles," she suddenly said. "I think I'm awkward because I'm so alone." She sounded a little bit tipsy. "Time for you to go to bed, Miss Millie. I'll see you in the morning." His eyes said something she did not really understand, and well, so did her stomach. "Miles, why did you stay up with me all night? I hope it's not because the estate pays you." "Millie," he said, and he left the room. Millie burst into tears and realised she felt rejected. She did not want to feel rejected, especially not by him. He seemed to be taking up more and more of her space, her mind, her stomach, and maybe even her heart. I made this for you. Miles reappeared with a big square object in hand. He delicately placed it down on the kitchen counter in front of her and put his hands next to hers. Open it, he gestured. It was wrapped in brown paper with a ribbon spread across the front. I wanted to give it to you for Christmas, but I thought it would be inappropriate given you're technically my boss. He fumbled through his words. Handsome, she thought, as she looked at his mouth. She carefully unwrapped the package, and as she moved the paper away, she saw it was a portrait of her and Larissa. It almost looked like a photograph. Miles, I don't know what to say. Millie, he held her hands in his. I have liked you, maybe even loved you for the longest of times. But I never wanted to cross a line with you, but tonight I've seen what things could be. He pulled away. Sorry, I'm being inappropriate, Millie. She stood up and gazed directly into his eyes. For the first time she felt she truly actually wanted to kiss someone, and not just because she wanted to feel a real connection. She did feel a connection, and it was more than just lust. Miles, I think I love you and I want a future with you. I was hoping you would say that, he smiled. For the first time in a long time, maybe even the first time in her life, her heart felt open and so did her mind. The awkwardness of making conversation had seemed to disappear with him, and she felt like she did not have to worry about being the right way. She could just be herself. She kissed him and made a note to herself. I am Millie and Millie is me. She was not going to try so hard in the future. Miles, do you think you could help me a bit with Larissa and the cleaning ladies? I always seem to freeze up and make a fool of myself. I never really know what to say. Yes, my love. Yes, I can indeed. But you know we all think you're wonderful and magnificent. You just didn't see it, and you didn't believe in yourself. Millie began walking to the upper floor of the house, leading Miles by the hand behind her. Where are we going? He asked. To the library. I know the perfect use for it, she said. The end.